compact form, so there are no parameters there. And these are the parameters corresponding to the two real orbits corresponding to the partition 2. So this is the trivial representation, and this is the signed representation of the GI. Yeah. So one can actually compute these things by hand as so if one does this, does the other parameter construction. So psi. So if I were to do the size for F, so if G was SL to R, G check.
Gentlemen, you're almost out of time. Rather than showing these sides, maybe you want to show we had one other interesting example to do.
Oh, so okay. So one other thing, SP4 or
SP4 or SP6, I forget the
complex. So
whatever you want.
Okay, so two more things I will do with the software. Again, this is modular, small pickup. I mean, I hope it's a small pickup. So if I set G is equal to SP4R, and I do the same thing here, so it computes the unipotent packets for all these representations. So the trivial orbit on the dual side. So now G is equal to SP or R, which means G check is equal to SO5C, right? So the even orbits that we look for are, so the possibilities for O check are 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 3, 1, 1, and 5. So by explicit computations, by computing maps WR cross SL to C to SO5C. Yeah. So we can actually, I mean, it's possible. Like you can do this by hand and show that corresponding to the trivial orbit, you will have a parameter in each of these blocks, other parameter in each of these blocks, and the representations that correspond to. So these are the representations that correspond to the trivial representation. Trivial orbit on the dual side. Most interesting is.
So hold on, scroll back a second. So the different blocks that you're talking about. So on the dual side, those are different psi of j's.
Correct. So each of the blocks correspond to. So in this calculation, if I were to work through this. There are two things that you need to do. If I were to work this out, I want to figure out what psi restricted to SL to C is. In this case, psi restricted to SL to C is trivial when my orbit is trivial. And so that means psi of J is going to be inside the centralizer of this guy. So the centralizer of this is all of SO. Will be an element inside the centralizer, which is all of SO5C. And this essentially is going to give you all the real forms of SO5C. I mean, it gives you the strong real forms, but this is an adjoint group, so that works out to be all the real forms of SO5C. So which means for every real form of SO5C, I will get another packet for the orbit 1, 1, 1, 1 to the 5. Right? Moving on to the next orbit here. So if you're looking for the orbit 3, 1, 1, so this is an interesting orbit. So the same calculation over here. If I do now compute when psi is when psi SL2 gives me, so if psi restricted to SL2C gives me the orbit 3, 1, 1. From here, I can so you can show that psi of H So on the carton, psi will send z 1 over z on the SI2 part to z squared 1 over z squared 1, and the possibilities for psi j are, it has to be
3 ones in the lower right-hand corner.
oh, okay, and so this is for SO3, so if I move this up, so it's going to be 1. So the centralizer for this guy, so the centralizer of psi is exactly O2, and the way O2 sits here is it's epsilon times identity times matrix of an element of O2 here. So this is I3. Yeah, so this is the diagram centralizer. Yeah. So my possibilities for psi j are 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, minus 1, minus 1, and minus 1, minus 1, minus 1, 1, minus 1, 1. So, I mean, these are diagonal elements, so these are my possibilities for psi j. And now if I compute psi of I minus I, which is going to be minus 1, minus 1, 1, 1, 1, correct? And my real forms are going to be product of this with this. So the real forms that I'm looking for are the product of I, 0, 0 minus I times psi j. Correct? And you see that if I take the product of each of these with this element, I'm going to get 3 different packets. And so 2 of these are going to go to SO32, will have 2, and SO41 is going to have another one. So if you take the dot product of this, so this goes to SO41, and these 2 go to SO32. Correct? And if I match that up with the software, the output from the software, so the block of 5 elements is the one corresponding to the dual real form SO41, and the block of 12 elements is the one corresponding to the dual real form SO32. And you see that there are 2 packets in SO32 and 1 packet of SO41. I mean, one last thing.
So, and just let me ask, so you know for a fact that those are the packets, those 4 are in one packet and the other 2 are in the other?
Yes.
That's what this says?
Yes.
And you didn't use stability for this? It's just
No, these are completely from what I've said here. Yeah, so the packets in SO4 are completely determined by this algorithm.
All of these cells have AQ lambdas, I guess?
Yes. So that's a crucial step, and so one of the nice things about this is it tells you if the packet is complete. Okay, and of course that thing exists because you do get an answer where the packet is not complete. So if I said G is equal to SP6R and run this thing out here, and I mean again I could compute parameters by hand this way, but what I want to show is it's computing, so that it the computation. But in the meantime, one other thing that Dan pointed out was for complex groups. So since we know how to, so like Adam said, the crucial thing in computing the complex associated variety was using the Noel-Jackson algorithm. So once I know the complex associated variety, if I set G to be a complex group, GC, so at least that's what, an orbit for a representation here is going to be of the form O check cross O check C, right? So if this is my group and this is my group C, so I can use the Noel-Jackson algorithm to compute these orbits too, and I think they compute unipotent packets and complex groups, and that's one thing. If there is somebody who could tell me, that would be awesome. But coming to here, the output is here. So you notice if you look at the orbit 311 here.
331.
331, right? So it's telling you that there are these two packets, and there are still two unipotent representations that don't have a place to go. And so depending, based on what we have done so far, it's not clear where to put them. And this is part of, we need more information on figuring that out. So that's one of the first places that you see non-complete unipotent orbits for type C. And just if I set G is equal to SP for C, say, and now run the same. So this I could make work only for complex C. So I'm not sure if this output makes sense to somebody, but so this is what I get for a complex group. So this does not use any of the real orbit stuff that I spoke at the later part of my talk. So this is up to complex associated varieties and the Noel-Jackson algorithm, and these are the packets that I get for each of the given complex orbits. So I think that would be a good place to stop.
Questions?
So in the definition of those unipotent representations in the beginning, you're just imposing the some conditions on the associated variety. Check, everything is, so you're imposing conditions on the, it's not about the representations having certain kind of associated variety, but rather than the Boolean dual of that representation having a certain size of associated variety. Is that what you're defining the?
Yeah, so the packet is defined only up to associated varieties for the dual representation. So that's the only condition that you have. So yeah.
That's absolutely right. The Arthur parameter is something on the dual side. And so an Arthur packet is defined by being dual to a certain collection of representations on the dual side with given properties.
So can you relate the associated variety of the unipotent representation and the Boolean dual of your unipotent representation?
Yeah, they're going to be dual.
They're just dual.
Yes. So it's not a respect duality, but that does not. Yeah. It does not mean that if you have computed a unipotent parameter for G, if you make a Boolean dual of that, you will get a unipotent parameter of G check. So that's not. Unless if you're going there.
So